Yep. Nice. Hello. Welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk a bit about ADHD in the context of productivity, because I think it can be exceptionally damaging and has been for me. A way that ADHD is misunderstood is, right, well, first of all, the way I think that society has a problem with ADHD is that a lot of the symptoms of something like ADHD affects the individual much more than it affects other people. So most of my ADHD traits does not affect other people negatively, in the same way that it may seem to with other kind of mental health stuff. It affects me much more than it affects other people, which often kind of causes the individual to internalise it a lot, which is not healthy. But because of that, it means that it's less understood. From the outside, ADHD looks like I get along very well with people, I'm quite creative and quite impulsive. But the way that I experience it, it's a lot more negatively affecting of my life than it seems. And the main thing that's constantly come up that I've only realised recently it did directly affect is my ideas of productivity. Now, I mainly have inattentive type of ADHD. There are three types technically: hyperactive, inattentive, and combined. I was told I mainly have inattentive, which means I don't show as many of the hyperactive traits, and a lot of it's much more kind of internalised. But how this works with productivity is that there's a thing called executive dysfunction that is a major, probably the major symptom thing that with ADHD. I found the best analogy that I've heard of, that I think I heard from TikTok to describe it, is it's wanting to do something, trying to do something, but not being able to do it. The analogy is, because I know it's difficult to understand if you don't experience it, but the analogy is there's a hot stove and you are trying to put your hand on the stove. You keep on trying to put your hand on the stove. You're there and you can't do it, and it's your brain stopping you because your brain deems it as a threat. It's like you're trying to put your hand on a hot stove when you're trying to do anything. Now, the major theory with ADHD is that we have a lack of dopamine in our brains, so that we are out there searching for dopamine all the time. So the kind of way that that I've kind of assumed that it works, if that theory is correct, is that our brain isn't allowing us to do activities that it doesn't deem we'll get enough dopamine from. So something like writing an essay, I'm not going to get as much dopamine from writing an essay for 4 hours than I am from, I don't know, watching this TV show and having crisps. Like, one of those tasks is going to bring me a lot more dopamine, which is kind of one of your happy hormones, than the other. So my brain won't let me do the stuff that won't give me dopamine. But what this means in terms of productivity, is that I'm kind of out of my academic life though, so my entire academic life, assuming that the problem was me and my self-discipline. Which sucks, because you end up paternalizing a lot. Because when you talk to someone about it and you just say, I don't know how I'm not able to do these things, their only response is try harder. Or that's what it comes down to. It's probably nicer words than that. But it's exceptionally frustrating when all you want to do is do the thing, but your brain's not letting you. And I don't think it's talked about in the things of productivity very much, because I became obsessed with productivity when I was probably about 14, and I'm still like not obsessed with it. But it was about that time I found kind of a lot of the productivity YouTubers and other people on social media that would give you hacks and ways to optimize things and ways to get better and ways to like improve your grades and ways to do things when like they're actually catering to a neurotypical audience. Having ADHD means that you're neurodivergent or neurodiverse. And all those tips were catered for a neurotypical audience, but of course I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD until a few months ago. So I assumed that the tricks were meant to work for me, and the reason why they didn't was because I wasn't trying hard enough. And living with that mentality for at least, how many years would it have been? 6 years? At least 6 years, thinking that the reason why I wasn't better academically and in other areas of my life was because I wasn't trying hard enough was very damaging, because I tried to the best of my abilities, the best of my functioning at the time, and it was definitely more of an internalized thing than people telling me, because I was able to get the bare minimum done. So I never failed academically disastrously. And the parts of things that I found really, really interesting, like performing in drama, I can do that because that's something I really enjoy. And that's one of the only parts I was able to do consistently and like do to a sufficient level to get decent grades and things. And it's just, I think it's a damaging thing in maybe the more the education sphere, the way that educational institutions are run, when someone isn't doing well academically, it's immediately their immediate thought is that the individual is not trying hard enough, when actually it's a lot of different problems. It's not a lot of different problems. It's often an underlying issue that hasn't been addressed, and it's not to do with the individual's wants to do something, which is very messed up. Especially as education system really doesn't cater to neuro divergent or diverse people. It's very much neurotypical, and even within that, it's so I could go on a rant about how messed up the way that we judge academic performances for a long while, but that's not what this is about. But yes, and I think we don't talk about it, the terms of productivity with ADHD, enough, because I think it can be very damaging. It's the kind of thing that happens with a lot of stuff where you go through your life thinking that you're kind of broken for years and then it's your fault, when it's not. It's like, I have to bring this up when I talk to people about this, but at one point, I was about 15, I think, and so in the UK, you have a exam set called GCSEs, which is when you're 15 and 16, you take them. And I was doing my GCSE things, and I remember changing my screensaver to just the words "work harder," really big, just on the back of my laptop screen. And that, in retrospect, screams desperation at a way to fix what I seemingly thought was wrong. And it's just frustration that I had to feel like that, and I'm sure so many other people did as well. More than anything. And it's still... I did not expect to get this emotional. But it's still a thing I think it's lessened now because I understand myself a lot better nowadays, now that I was diagnosed. And I understand that most of the things I've been beating myself up about aren't my fault and that I shouldn't do that anymore. Easier said than done, but as everything is, it's a process. But I think there's a frustrating thing, and partly why I'm making this video is because I don't think the wider neurotypical population, or even people who are neurodivergent but don't understand either aren't diagnosed or don't really understand it that well, don't realise how difficult it can be to do things. Because even things that I enjoy, how long have I been? Okay. Even things that I enjoy, things streaming related, streaming gives me tons of dopamine. So it's generally why I'm able to do it so much. But the problem with it is because I'm not able to do other things in my life that are seemingly more important. It's difficult to justify my brain to be able to do streaming things. Like I had a lot of people asking me to go, asking when I was going to go affiliate, and like this isn't complaining or anything, but just an insight. I had a lot of people asking me, and I wanted to. It was very overwhelming in my head, but it's difficult to justify spending an hour or two sorting out all my affiliate stuff when none of my clothes are clean. I'm not eating veg. I have to sort out a doctor's appointment. I've got to do all these things that I seemingly can't make myself do. It's extremely difficult to know that I've got to do that, and then I feel like I'm distracting myself by doing things that I enjoy, if that makes sense. So I think it's good to be aware that the reason why someone's not doing something probably isn't for the reason that you think. And sometimes telling someone to do something comes across maybe slightly more accusatory than intended. Like, I fully know all the intentions behind all of those were good, but at the same time, it put pressure on me, and kind of like brought into mind all the things I still had to do for a lot of other stuff. Which, as I said, with the whole analogy with executive dysfunction, I was like here, still am with a lot of things. Yeah. Here, just trying to be able to do things. And when I'm finally able to, which often only happens when there's a time crunch, as in, it's the only reason I was able to write any essays, because I was like, shoot, I've got 12 hours to write this essay, I better start now. And I go into hyper-focus mode. Or if I suddenly have inspiration and have enough energy to follow that kind of inspiration, motivation. But yeah, that's a bit of a talk about my experiences with ADHD and productivity. Yeah. Also, this is a reminder that we don't fully understand ADHD. And as I said, there are 3 different types, and within that, even if I have the same type as someone else, they might be affected wholly differently to things like productivity than me. And I can only speak of my own experience, and none of it's scientifically backed up, but it's my experience with it. And yeah, essentially, we shouldn't immediately assume that the reason why someone is seemingly failing, either in an academic setting or not. You should never assume that that's due to the person not trying. Because I'd be confident in saying in 99% of cases, it's not the person not trying or not wanting to. There's something else at play. And assuming that it's the person's fault directly is much more destructive than it is constructive. It's much more... You're not helping the person by accusing them of not trying. You should always try and understand first and let people do what they need to do, because you also don't know what's going on in people's lives. But yeah, I thought it was I haven't heard many people talking about productivity and ADHD before, and I kind of wanted to bring it to light because I realised that's probably the biggest emotional struggle I've had, just because I so wanted to be good at things, and it's the most emotionally, I don't really want to say damaging, but it's the things that it's the part of the kind of symptoms and stuff that I've focused on so much and didn't realise that it was part of that when I was younger. But yeah, that got very emotional. I'm very sorry. No, I'm not sorry. I'm allowed to have emotions, and so are you. But I just kind of wanted to explain that a bit. And yeah, it's kind of more also saying how basically just treat everyone with compassion and kindness is all I kind of say. And understand that if someone is struggling, it's not because of them not trying. But yeah, all my links will be downstairs. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope it's been interesting. I found it the puzzle pieces only clicked recently for me with that's what was happening when I was younger, and it's very interesting, I think. But anyway, I'll speak to you again soon. You can find me live on Twitch sometimes. I'm taking a little break, but we'll see. Might pop up randomly. Anyway, thank you for watching. Be kind to yourself, drink some water. If you can, go in the sun. Vitamin D, it's underrated. But yeah, I'll speak to you guys again soon. And yeah, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day whenever you're watching this. Bye.